Have you ever imagined that the biblical stories, such as the creation of the world and Noah's Ark, were influenced by cultures much earlier than we think we know? What if the story of Adam and Eve and the serpent were echoes of forgotten legends in ancient texts lost in time? And how did a serpent mysteriously invade the sacred garden and alter a divinely planned destiny? Is it possible that the writer merely created the characters of Adam and Eve, or molded them from ancient myths? The enigmas behind the connection between the great biblical flood and ancient Mesopotamian legends opens the door to even deeper questions. In the next few minutes, we'll explore these mysteries and expose surprising discoveries and their consequences. We'll delve into the fascinating connections between biblical narratives and ancient Mesopotamian myths, exploring how these two rich traditions intersect and influence each other. At first glance, the stories found in the Bible and those of ancient Mesopotamia may seem distinct, rooted in different cultures and historical contexts. However, closer examination reveals striking similarities that invite us to reconsider the origins and meanings of these narratives. For example, the creation stories in Genesis echo themes found in the Enuma Elish, a Babylonian creation myth in which the cosmos is formed out of chaos and divine conflict. Similarly, the flood narrative in the Bible bears a striking resemblance to the Epic of Gilgamesh, in which a great flood is sent by the gods to cleanse the earth, and a hero is chosen to survive and preserve life. These parallels not only highlight shared human experiences, but also suggest a complex network of cultural exchange and adaptation that has shaped these stories over time. Before continuing with this content, I ask that you just check that you are already subscribed to the channel. That way, you won't miss any of our exclusive content that reveals a world beyond the conventional. Don't miss out. As we embark on this exploration, we aim to arouse your curiosity and provoke reflection on the deeper meanings contained in these ancient texts. By examining the similarities and differences between biblical stories and Mesopotamian myths, we can discover layers of meaning that enrich our understanding of both traditions. This journey invites us to consider how these narratives reflect the values, beliefs, and existential questions of their respective cultures. What do these stories reveal about humanity's search for meaning, morality, and connection with the divine? How do they address universal themes such as creation, destruction, and redemption? By asking these questions, we hope to stimulate a dialogue that encourages viewers to think critically about the narratives that have shaped religious thought and cultural identity throughout history. Understanding the connections between biblical texts and ancient myths is fundamental to a deeper understanding of the Bible itself. Many scholars argue that the biblical authors were not writing in a vacuum. Instead, they were influenced by the myths and stories circulating in their contemporary world. Recognizing these influences allows us to appreciate the Bible not just as a sacred text, but as a product of its time, reflecting the historical and cultural milieu in which it was composed. This perspective can transform our reading of the Bible, revealing it as a dynamic conversation with the myths of the ancient Near East, rather than a static account of divine revelation. By recognizing these connections, we can better understand the theological innovations that the biblical authors introduced, as they reinterpreted and recontextualized existing myths to convey their unique messages about God, humanity, and the world. Furthermore, exploring these connections can increase our appreciation of the literary art present in the biblical and Mesopotamian narratives. The use of symbolism, archetypes, and narrative structures in these stories serves not only to entertain, but also to convey profound truths about the human condition. By analyzing these literary elements, we can discover the ways in which ancient storytellers crafted their narratives to relate to their audiences, addressing their fears, hopes, and aspirations. This exploration invites us to engage with these texts on a deeper level, recognizing the artistry involved in their creation and the enduring relevance of their themes. The influence of ancient Mesopotamian cultures on the biblical stories is particularly evident in the narratives involving creation and the flood, where parallels can be drawn that illuminate the shared cultural heritage of these ancient civilizations. One of the most striking examples is the biblical narrative of the flood, which closely resembles the Mesopotamian myth of Atrahasis. In both accounts, a divine decision is made to send a catastrophic flood to cleanse the earth of humanity's wickedness. In the Epic of Atrahasis, the gods, annoyed by the noise and overpopulation of humans, decide to exterminate them with a flood. However, one man, Atrahasis, is warned by the god Enki and builds a boat to save himself, his family, and various animals. This narrative mirrors the biblical account of Noah, in which God, seeing the corruption of humanity, decides to flood the earth, but spares Noah, who is instructed to build an ark. The similarities between these stories raise intriguing questions about the transmission of ideas and the adaptation of narratives between cultures. The parallels extend beyond the flood narrative to the creation story found in Genesis, which reflects earlier Sumerian and Babylonian traditions. The Genesis account begins with God creating the world in 6 days, culminating in the creation of humanity in his image. This narrative resonates with the Sumerian creation myth, in which the god Marduk defeats the chaos monster Tiamat and forms the world from his body. In both traditions, the act of creation is portrayed as a struggle against chaos, emphasizing the importance of order and divine authority. Furthermore, the concept that humanity was created in the image of the divine can be traced back to Mesopotamian beliefs, where humans were often seen as servants of the gods, created to relieve them of their burdens. This shared motif highlights the cultural exchanges that took place in the ancient Near East, when the biblical authors drew on existing myths to articulate their theological perspectives. Analyzing these cultural exchanges is fundamental to understanding how the biblical narratives were shaped and transformed over time. The biblical authors were not isolated from their environment. Rather, they were part of a wider cultural milieu that included the rich tapestry of Mesopotamian mythology. By engaging with these earlier traditions, they were able to reinterpret and recontextualize familiar stories to convey their unique theological messages. For example, while Mesopotamian myths usually portray a capricious pantheon of gods, the biblical narrative presents a singular sovereign God who is deeply concerned with humanity's moral choices. This change reflects a significant theological development, as the biblical authors sought to emphasize the relationship between God and humanity, portraying a deity who is just and merciful. Moreover, the importance of these cultural exchanges goes beyond mere storytelling. They reveal the ways in which ancient peoples dealt with fundamental questions about existence, morality, and the divine. The flood narratives, for example, serve as cautionary tales about the consequences of human behavior, urging audiences to reflect on their actions and their relationship with the divine. By incorporating elements of Mesopotamian myths, the biblical authors were able to address contemporary concerns and, at the same time, ground their narratives in a familiar cultural context. This mixture of traditions not only enriched the biblical texts, but also allowed them to resonate with audiences who were already familiar with the themes and motifs present in Mesopotamian literature. The influence of ancient Mesopotamian cultures on the biblical stories, especially the creation and flood narratives, underscores the interconnectedness of these ancient civilizations. By examining the parallels between the biblical accounts and Mesopotamian myths such as Atrahasis, as well as the reflections of earlier Sumerian and Babylonian traditions in the Genesis creation story, we gain valuable insights into the cultural exchanges that shaped the biblical narratives. These interactions not only highlight shared human experience, but also illustrate the dynamic nature of storytelling, in which ideas are adapted and transformed to convey deeper theological truths. Understanding these influences enriches our understanding of the Bible, revealing it as a text that is rooted in its historical context and relevant to the ongoing exploration of faith and morality. Your opinion is very important to us. Comment below on what you think of the video or if you have any questions on this subject. The Yaoistic font, usually abbreviated as J from the German Jaoist, plays a crucial role in the composition of the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible. Identifying the characteristics of the Yaoistic source reveals a distinctive portrait of God and a unique narrative style that contributes significantly to our understanding of the biblical traditions. One of the most notable characteristics of the Yaoistic source is its anthropomorphic representation of God, who is often described in human terms and engages directly with humanity. For example, in the creation narrative, God is portrayed as a potter who forms Adam from the dust of the earth and gives him life, emphasizing a personal and intimate relationship between the Creator and creation. This representation contrasts with other sources of the Pentateuch, such as the priestly source, which presents a more transcendent and distant view of God. The Yaoists' emphasis on God's closeness to humanity invites readers to consider the relational aspect of faith, highlighting themes of covenant, promise, and divine presence. The historical context of the writer of the Yaoist is essential to understanding the motivations behind the composition of this source. Scholars generally date the Yaoistic source to the monarchical period in Israel, especially during the reign of Kings David and Solomon. This was a time of significant political and social change, as Israel went from a loose confederation of tribes to a centralized monarchy. The Yaoistic writer probably sought to address the challenges and aspirations of a nation struggling with its identity and relationship with God. By emphasizing the stories of the patriarchs, such as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Yaoistic source reinforces the idea of a chosen people with a divine destiny. These narratives serve to legitimize the monarchy by connecting the current rulers to the promises made by God to Israel's ancestors, thus promoting a sense of continuity and divine favor. Furthermore, The Yahwistic sources focus on the themes of land and covenant, reflects the historical realities of the time. As Israelite society became more settled and agricultural, the importance of land ownership and divine promise became paramount. The Yahwistic writer articulates this connection through narratives that highlight God's covenant with Abraham, which includes the promise of land and descendants. This emphasis on land is not just a geographical concern. It symbolizes the fulfillment of God's promises and the establishment of a unique identity for the Israelites. By weaving these themes into the fabric of the Pentateuch, the Yahwistic source contributes to a collective memory that shapes the identity of the Israelite people. The importance of the Yahwistic source in understanding biblical traditions cannot be overstated. It provides a fundamental narrative that informs the theological and ethical dimensions of the biblical text. The Yahwistic portrayal of God as a relational being who desires to be in communion with humanity prepares the ground for later theological developments in the Hebrew Bible. This understanding of God as intimately involved in the lives of individuals and the community is echoed throughout prophetic literature and in the writings of later biblical authors. In addition, the Yahwistic source's emphasis on storytelling and narrative structure enriches the literary quality of the Pentateuch, making it accessible and engaging for its audience. Furthermore, the Yahwistic source serves as a counter-narrative to other sources of the Pentateuch, such as the priestly source, which generally emphasizes ritual, law, and cultic aspects of worship. By presenting a more personal and relational view of God, the Yahwistic writer invites readers to engage with their faith on a deeper level, encouraging a sense of trust and dependence on divine guidance. This dynamic interaction between different sources within the Pentateuch reflects the diverse theological perspectives present in ancient Israelite society, allowing for a richer understanding of the complexities of faith and tradition. In conclusion, the contributions of the Yahwistic source to the composition of the Pentateuch are significant and multifaceted. By identifying its characteristics, understanding its historical context during the monarchic period and recognizing its importance in the formation of biblical traditions, we gain valuable insights into the development of Israelite identity and theology. The Yahwistic source not only enriches the narrative of the Pentateuch, but also invites readers to explore the profound relationship between God and humanity, a theme that resonates throughout the biblical text. The Garden of Eden narrative, one of the most iconic stories in the Bible, has its origins deeply rooted in ancient mythological traditions, especially those of the Near East. By exploring the connections between the Garden of Eden and the Sumerian myth of Dilmun, we can discover fascinating similarities that illuminate the shared cultural heritage of these ancient civilizations. In the Sumerian myth, Dilmun is described as a pristine paradise, a place of purity and abundance where the gods reside. This myth describes Dilmun as a land free from disease and death, where the sun shines perpetually and the waters are pure. Similarly, the Garden of Eden is portrayed as a lush and idyllic setting, filled with trees, rivers, and the presence of God. Both narratives emphasize the theme of a divine garden as a place of harmony and sustenance, suggesting a common cultural motif that reflects humanity's longing for an ideal existence. One of the most significant elements of the Garden of Eden narrative is the Tree of Life, which serves as a powerful symbol in the story. The Tree of Life represents not only physical sustenance, but also spiritual vitality and immortality. In the biblical account, Adam and Eve are denied access to the Tree of Life after their disobedience, marking a crucial moment in the narrative that signifies the loss of innocence and the introduction of mortality. This theme resonates in ancient art, where the Tree of Life is often depicted as a central motif. In several ancient Near Eastern cultures, the Tree of Life is represented in artistic forms, symbolizing fertility, growth, and the interconnectedness of life. These artistic representations often feature elaborate designs, intertwined branches, and lush foliage, emphasizing the tree's significance as a source of nourishment and divine blessing. If you're finding value in this video, please leave a like. It really makes a difference to us and helps other people discover our content. The role of sacred trees in ancient Near Eastern religions further underscores the importance of the Tree of Life and its connections to the Garden of Eden narrative. Sacred trees were often seen as intermediaries between the divine and earthly realms, serving as symbols of life, fertility, and protection. In many ancient cultures, trees were revered as sacred entities, believed to harbor deities or spirits. For example, in Mesopotamian mythology, the sacred tree was associated with the goddess Inanna, representing fertility and the cycle of life. Similarly, in Canaanite religion, trees were often associated with the worship of fertility gods, highlighting their importance in agricultural societies. Reverence for sacred trees reflects a broader understanding of nature as a manifestation of the divine, in which the natural world is imbued with spiritual meaning. The connections between the Garden of Eden, the Sumerian myth of Dilmun, and the role of sacred trees in ancient religions reveal a rich tapestry of shared beliefs and cultural exchanges. These narratives and symbols reflect humanity's enduring quest to understand the relationship between the divine, nature, and the human experience. The Garden of Eden serves as a microcosm of this exploration, encapsulating themes of creation, temptation, and the consequences of human choices. By examining these connections, we gain insights into how ancient peoples dealt with fundamental questions about existence, morality, and the nature of the divine. Furthermore, the Garden of Eden narrative can be seen as a response to the ancient myths that preceded it, offering a distinct theological perspective that emphasizes God's sovereignty and humanity's moral responsibilities. While the Sumerian myth of Dilmun presents a paradise untouched by human action, the biblical account introduces the concept of free will and the consequences of disobedience. This shift in focus, from a passive existence in paradise to an active engagement with divine commandments, reflects a significant theological development in the context of the ancient Near East. The origins of the Garden of Eden narrative are intrinsically linked to ancient myths, especially the Sumerian myth of Dilmun. By discussing the similarities between these narratives, analyzing the significance of the Tree of Life, and examining the role of sacred trees in ancient Near Eastern religions, we discover a rich interplay of themes that resonate across cultures. The Garden of Eden serves not only as a fundamental story within the biblical tradition, but also as a reflection of humanity's timeless quest to understand the divine and our place within the natural world. Through these connections, we gain a deeper appreciation of the complexities of ancient beliefs and the enduring relevance of these narratives in contemporary discussions about faith, morality, and human experience. The symbolism of the serpent in the Garden of Eden narrative is a rich and complex motif that has intrigued scholars and theologians for centuries. In the biblical account, the serpent is portrayed as a cunning creature who tempts Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge, leading to the fall of humanity. This portrayal of the serpent is not isolated. It resonates with representations of serpents in various ancient myths, in which they often personify chaos and challenge the established order. By examining these connections, we can gain a deeper understanding of the serpent's role in the Eden narrative and its wider implications in the context of ancient Near Eastern thought. In ancient Near Eastern mythology, serpents often symbolize chaos and disorder. For example, in Ugaritic texts, Lawton is a multi-headed serpent associated with the sea and chaos, often portrayed as a formidable adversary of the storm god Baal. Similarly, Leviathan, a creature mentioned in the Hebrew Bible, is portrayed as a chaotic sea monster that embodies the primordial forces of chaos. These mythological serpents represent the indomitable aspects of nature and the challenges that divine beings face in establishing order. The serpent in the Garden of Eden can be seen as a continuation of this symbolic tradition, representing not only temptation, but also the chaotic forces that disturb the harmony of creation. The implications of the serpent's role in the Eden narrative are profound. By introducing the concept of disobedience and the quest for knowledge, the serpent acts as a catalyst for humanity's transition from innocence to consciousness. The serpent's temptation leads Eve to question God's order, suggesting that knowledge and autonomy come at a cost. This act of defiance of divine authority introduces chaos into the previously ordered world of the garden. The serpent's cunning nature and persuasive speech challenge the established order, leading humanity to confront the complexities of moral choice and the consequences of their actions. In this sense, the serpent embodies the duality of knowledge. It can lead to enlightenment, but also to destruction. Furthermore, the symbolism of the serpent as a representation of primordial chaos is significant for understanding the broader theological themes of the Eden narrative. The act of eating from the tree of knowledge not only results in the loss of innocence, but also signifies a rupture in the divine order established by God. The serpent's role in this rupture highlights the tension between divine authority and human agency. By choosing to listen to the serpent instead of following God's command, Adam and Eve embrace chaos instead of order, which leads to their expulsion from the garden. This narrative arc reflects a fundamental aspect of the human experience, the struggle between the desire for knowledge and the inherent risks that come with it. The serpent's connection to chaos is further emphasized by its association with the natural world. In many ancient cultures, snakes were seen as powerful symbols of fertility and regeneration, but they also represented the unpredictable and often dangerous aspects of nature. The snake's ability to shed its skin and emerge renewed can be interpreted as a metaphor for transformation, but it also serves as a reminder of the potential for chaos that lurks beneath the surface of creation. In the Garden of Eden, the serpent's presence disrupts the idyllic setting, introducing uncertainty and fear into a world that was once characterized by harmony and divine order. In conclusion, The symbolism of the serpent in the Garden of Eden narrative is deeply intertwined with themes of chaos and the challenge to divine order. By exploring the representation of the serpent in various ancient myths, such as Latin and Leviathan, we can see how these motifs resonate across cultures, emphasizing the serpent's role as a symbol of primordial chaos. The implications of the serpent's actions in the Eden narrative reveal the complexities of human choice and the consequences of defying divine authority. Ultimately, the serpent serves as a powerful reminder of the delicate balance between knowledge and chaos, inviting readers to reflect on the nature of temptation, the search for understanding, and the inherent risks that accompany the quest for autonomy. Through this lens, the Garden of Eden narrative becomes not only a story of disobedience, but also a profound exploration of the human condition and our relationship with the divine. The Ugaritic texts, especially KTU 1100 and KTU 1107, provide valuable information about the cultural and religious environment of the ancient Near East, offering possible connections with the biblical narrative of the Garden of Eden. Discovered in the ancient city of Ugarit, present-day Ras Shamra, Syria, these texts date back to the 14th century BC and were written in a cuneiform script that reveals a wealth of mythological and religious traditions. KTU 1100, known as the Cycle of Baal, recounts the exploits of the storm god Baal, while KTU 1107, often called the legend of the creation of the world, describes the creation of the cosmos and the establishment of order from chaos. Both texts contain themes and motifs that resonate with the Eden narrative, especially with regard to divine intervention and the role of serpents. In KTU 1100, the narrative revolves around Baal's struggle against the chaotic sea god Yam, who personifies primordial chaos and disorder. This conflict culminates in Baal's victory, which establishes him as the king of the gods and brings order to the cosmos. The theme of divine intervention is prominent in this text, as Baal's actions directly influence the natural world and the fate of humanity. Similarly, in the Garden of Eden narrative, God's intervention is crucial in the creation of the world and in establishing the limits of human existence. The act of placing Adam and Eve in the garden, along with the order concerning the tree of knowledge, reflects the divine desire to maintain order and harmony. The parallels between these narratives highlight the importance of divine authority in the Ugaritic and biblical traditions, suggesting a shared cultural understanding of the relationship between the divine and human experience. The role of serpents in Ugaritic texts further enriches our understanding of the Eden narrative. In KTU 1107, the serpent is portrayed as a significant figure associated with chaos and the challenges faced by the gods. The presence of the serpent in these texts often symbolizes the threat to the divine order, just like the serpent in the Garden of Eden, which tempts Eve and ultimately leads to the fall of humanity. This connection suggests that the role of the serpent in the Eden narrative may not be an isolated phenomenon, but rather part of a wider mythological tradition in which serpents personify the forces of chaos that challenge the established order. By examining these themes, we can see how the serpent functions as a catalyst for change, provoking divine and human responses to the disruption of harmony. Analyzing the Ugaritic texts in relation to the Eden narrative can reshape our understanding of the biblical narratives in several ways. Firstly, it highlights the interconnectedness of ancient Near Eastern cultures, revealing how shared themes and motifs transcend individual traditions. The similarities between the Ugaritic texts and the biblical account suggest that the authors of the Eden narrative were influenced by the mythological structures of their time, incorporating familiar elements to convey their theological messages. This perspective encourages readers to see the biblical text not as a standalone work, but as part of a rich tapestry of ancient stories that reflect the complexities of human experience and divine interaction. Furthermore, the Ugaritic texts challenge traditional interpretations of the Eden narrative, providing alternative frameworks for understanding the themes of chaos, divine authority, and human action. The portrayal of divine intervention in the Ugaritic texts emphasizes the active role of the gods in shaping the world, which can lead to a re-evaluation of the character of God in the Eden narrative. Instead of seeing God only as a distant creator, the Ugaritic texts invite readers to consider the dynamic relationship between the divine and humanity, in which divine actions have profound implications for human existence. Furthermore, exploring the serpents in Ugaritic mythology can deepen our understanding of the symbolic meaning of the serpent in the Eden narrative. By recognizing the serpent as a representation of chaos and a challenger of divine order, we can appreciate the complexity of the moral choices faced by Adam and Eve. The serpent's role as tempter not only introduces the concept of disobedience, but also highlights the inherent tension between knowledge and divine order, a theme that resonates throughout the biblical text. The creation myths of the ancient Near East offer a fascinating glimpse into the diverse ways in which primitive cultures understood the origins of humanity and the cosmos. Among these myths, several striking similarities can be found when compared to the account of creation in Genesis in the Bible. One of the most striking aspects of these myths is why human beings were created from clay, a theme that resonates in various cultures, including the Sumerian and Akkadian traditions. This shared imagery not only highlights the similarity of human origins, but also reflects deeper theological implications about the relationship between humanity and the divine. In Sumerian mythology, the creation of humanity is portrayed in the myth of Enki and Ninmah. According to this narrative, the god Enki, together with the goddess Ninmah, creates humans from clay to relieve the gods of their work. The process involves molding the clay into human shapes, which emphasizes the physicality of human existence and the divine skill involved in creation. Similarly, in the Akkadian myth of Atrahasis, human beings are molded from clay mixed with the blood of a dead god, illustrating the idea that humanity is imbued with divine essence. This theme of clay as a fundamental material in the creation of human beings is repeated in the Genesis account, in which God forms Adam from the dust of the earth, giving him life to create a living being. The use of clay in these narratives symbolizes the connection between humanity and the earth, underscoring the idea that human beings are as much a product of divine intention as they are a part of the natural world. The divine elements involved in the creation of humanity in different traditions further illuminate the similarities between these myths. In the Sumerian and Akkadian accounts, the involvement of various deities in the creation process reflects a collaborative effort between the gods. For example, in the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation myth, the god Marduk creates humanity from the remains of the defeated chaos monster Tiamat, meaning that human beings are a product of the divine struggle and victory over chaos. This collaborative aspect of creation emphasizes the importance of divine authority and the interconnectedness of the gods in the formation of the world. In contrast, the Genesis account presents a singular God who creates humanity in his image, highlighting the monotheistic belief central to the biblical narrative. Despite this difference, both traditions convey the idea that the creation of humanity is a deliberate act of the divine, highlighting the importance of human existence within the wider cosmic order. Another theme shared between these creation myths is the role of the divine breath in giving life. In the Genesis account, after forming Adam from dust, God breathes into his nostrils the breath of life, and Adam becomes a living being. This act of giving life to Adam signifies a profound connection between the divine and humanity, suggesting that life itself is a gift from God. Similarly, in the Sumerian myth of Enki and Ninmah, the act of giving life to the clay figures created by the gods is a crucial stage in the creation process. The divine breath symbolizes not only the transmission of life, but also the spiritual essence that distinguishes human beings from other creatures. This motif of the divine breath as a life-giving force is a powerful theme that resonates in all cultures, emphasizing the sacred nature of human existence. The shared themes of creation found in these ancient Near Eastern myths highlight the universal human quest to understand origins and existence. The images of humans being formed from clay, the involvement of divine beings in the creation process, and the significance of divine breath reflect a common understanding of humanity's place in the cosmos. These narratives serve as a means of articulating the relationship between the divine and the human, illustrating how different cultures have dealt with the complexities of existence and the nature of life. Understanding these cultural influences on biblical texts is fundamental to a deeper understanding of the narratives that have shaped religious thought and cultural identity throughout history. By recognizing the interaction between biblical stories and ancient myths, we can appreciate the dynamic nature of storytelling and the ways in which these narratives reflect the values, beliefs, and existential questions of their respective cultures. This exploration not only increases our understanding of the Bible, but also invites us to engage with the text on a deeper level, recognizing the artistry and theological depth present in its pages. As we conclude this video, we encourage you to reflect on the connections we've discussed and to consider how these ancient narratives continue to resonate in contemporary discussions about faith, morality, and human experience. We invite you to share your thoughts on the subject in the comments section below. What insights did you gain from this exploration? How do you see the influence of ancient myths on modern interpretations of biblical stories? If you found this video informative, subscribe to our channel for more content that delves into the intersections of history, mythology, and theology. Don't forget to like this video and share it with friends or anyone who might be interested in exploring the rich connections between biblical narratives and ancient myths. Your involvement helps us to continue creating content that promotes meaningful discussions and deepens our understanding of these timeless stories. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and we look forward to exploring more intriguing topics with you in the future.